Hi folks, Mark here, MMR Trains and More. Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel again. We upload every Wednesday, and we hope if you're not a subscriber at this point that you consider subscribing and hit the notifications, as they always say. We will be uploading, hopefully, some extra videos as we get closer to fall. Have you met the man that bought the $1,200 VCR or the $1,400 microwave oven? Maybe you were that person. I know I was that person when it came to DCC. I had been exposed and luckily was able to run on Dynatrol controlled layouts back in the 1980s. And I just thought they were the greatest thing ever. You know, if Al McClellan used it, it must be good. That was my theory. It was a challenge to fit the electronics in, but if you could do it, it gave you that freedom that we kind of expect today with DCC. Now, the downside, of course, was that nothing was really interchangeable. Like I said, I ran on Dynatrol layouts, and I myself, my dad and I had the onboard system from Keller. Now, I don't know what possessed us to buy that system because I thought Dynatrol was better. It had to be cheaper or, you know, something like that, that being the reason we bought it. And it worked reasonably well. Eventually, the DCC revolution came about for a standard thanks to the NMRA and just technology becoming available. We were alerted to the fact that a guy by the name of Don Wangrow was coming to Walthers to demo a brand new control system. And, you know, I was all over it, and my dad was even interested in it as well. So my brother and my dad and I went down to Walthers one Saturday morning, and there was Don Wangrow. And, you know, to me, he looked like a typical model railroader, middle-aged guy, nice guy to talk to, and seemed like he was very, you know, sincere about the product he was selling. And he brought, you know, samples along of cabs and decoder-equipped locomotives, and, you know, everyone could try them out. And I was amazed at the positive feel to the controller and the instant, response to the speed changes. And whole experience left us wanting that system. Now, the downside was, I believe we spent almost $800 on the starter pack, the Pro starter pack, the command station, tethered cab, of course, RCA plug type jacks on the end for plugging it in, and then the booster. It wasn't long before we got that unit back home, and I tested it on our home layout. Basically, it was a matter of just disconnecting the onboard Keller system and then hooking up the Wangrow, the new DCC. Worked great. Of course, then when I went out on my own, I took the electronics. My dad was happy to go back to DC. He was interested in it, but it never really took hold for him. You know, he had too many older locomotives, and he wanted to, you know, keep them as they were without having to put decoders in all of them. I'd be sad if I would have to tell you that, yeah, that NCE or System One thing only lasted, you know, X amount of years. But as we sit here in 2025, that same command station and same power booster, you know, is still running the Stevens Point division and the Manitowoc branch here on my layout. And so, if nothing else, I got a good return on my investment. Don passed away in 2003, I believe it was, cancer again. Nice guy, you know, maybe not the brains of the operation as far as all the nitty-gritty electronics, but he had a vision for what he felt a cab should look like, what a system should do for the layout owner, information being sent to a cab bus and eventually into the cab screen. Very good readback and feedback from the system. All these were ideas that he wanted to implement. He just needed some people, I'm sure, to help him go from point A to point B on that, but another guy that we lost too soon. Long story short, the guys that worked with him went on to work with and form North Coast Engineering. So once System One disappeared from the market, it wasn't a problem because the North Coast Engineering cabs, eventually their radio cabs, and their line of decoders obviously all worked with System One. There's certainly nothing wrong with the other brands, or if you run DC, there's nothing wrong with that. When I go to a layout, I like to be able to run the trains, not worry about the track necessarily, and not worry about the thing in my hand. It should be intuitive to operate. And although initially I was taken aback by the size of the NCE or System One controller, it fit in your hand perfectly. And the thumb wheel and the direction button, the horn and the bell and the light functions all within thumb's reach. So it would only take a few probably operating sessions and it was all kind of muscle memory. You didn't have to even look at it. Plus it had that nice big readout screen on it, and it kept you aware of the status of the speed steps, any functions you have going, whatever. It was a very nice system. And would I recommend NCE today? Absolutely. So the bottom line is Don Wangrow was a heck of a salesman. He got us to part with over $800 of cash for his DCC system. A wonderful system to operate, very intuitive. Is it perfect? Well, of course not. Do I use it to its capabilities? No, of course not. You've seen the videos, you're familiar with the layout hopefully a little bit, and you know that I'm not huge into sound or lighting, and we don't use it for throwing powered switch machines. There's no detection on the layout for signaling, so it is used basically just to move trains, locomotives if you will, forward and backwards. If you need those other things, are there better systems out there? Maybe there are. I haven't really investigated it because I just kind of stay in my lane here and do what I do. I hope that sort of answers the question without, getting into a great big debate. What's better? What doesn't work? This thing was horrible. This, it's really not what the channel is about. Trying to keep it, focused on model building and running trains. And to that end, there are, at least I can think off the top of my head, a half dozen or so products that would work. Now, if you would be so kind to subscribe to my channel, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you down the rails.